There's that TV zone.
Yeah. Big room. So welcome back to the House Committee on Government Operations, Military Affairs. So we're switching gears here, and Representative Houghton, Chair of House Healthcare Committee, has come down to give us a drive-by of some of the professional compacts bills that her committee has been working on before they vote them out, I think. So
Yes.
Representative Houghton, welcome.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. So we have three compacts that we've reviewed right now. So I think in the agenda, you'll see H62, H77, and H86. Compacts are generally the same. So I'm going to talk broadly and then just give you a little bit on each one because they are generally the same. So basically compact, let me actually take a step back. We last session, I believe it was, had put in place a study group on telehealth. And what are things, how can we do things better through telehealth? Because when we got hit with the pandemic, we immediately changed our rules and allowed for much broader use of telehealth. Telehealth is basically someone, a physician in Vermont or any type of licensed professional in Vermont, if they wanted to provide care to someone in Michigan, before telehealth, they would have to get a Michigan license. Telehealth allows the practicing of care, treatment in Vermont if you have a license here from someone outside of the state, right? But it doesn't allow you if you are a Michigan doctor and want to care for someone in Vermont to be able to provide that care without getting a Vermont license. Does that make sense?
And I will tell you, Representative Houghton, that we did spend the morning with Deputy Secretary Hibbert and talked about.
I don't know why I'm here.
We talked about compacts broadly.
Okay.
As part of a broad overview of OPR, we went on a journey and talked about many things, and then we went deep into the housekeeping bill. So we spent the morning on OPR. A small chunk of that, we did a little preview of what compacts are all about. So we've had a taste, but I appreciate you giving us the real.
And telehealth has been extremely successable in Vermont. And I will say we were, and hopefully Lauren said this because it was a lot due to her and her office, OPR. We were like the first state that did this. So we have set the standard for others across the country. Part of that work study that came back was the desire from the work group, of which there were all stakeholders from the healthcare system, to enter into compacts to allow for mobility and access to occur within the healthcare system. And so that's why we have 3 in front of us now, and we will probably have 2 more. So the H62, since you did get a broad overview, H62 is what's called the Interstate Counseling Compact. So these would be professions, mental health counselors that are licensed by Office of Professional Regulation. This counseling compact is not yet active, but it has 15 states that have joined. And what it will allow is, again, if someone, let's say Michigan is a compact state, we're a compact state, I have a license in Vermont, I could join the compact license and say to the compact commission, I want to join 5 of the 15 states. I want to be able to practice and get a license in those states. Because I have a license in good standing in Vermont, I would be able to then provide care to people in those 5 states. And vice versa, if someone from another state wanted to provide care to Vermonters. So where this is really helpful is if, let's say, you have a high school student that's in counseling and they're graduating and their provider is here in Vermont, but they're going to go to college in Maine and they want to continue the relationship with their counselor here. Joining the compact will allow that to happen much easier. Like I said, this is not yet active, and what that means on this one is all these compacts are run by a commission, and they need to set the rules outside of the policy that's in the legislation. They then do rulemaking, just like we would do here in Vermont. we join soon, we will have a seat at the table in making those rules, which would be very important. I think Lauren is here and can talk more about that. Next, do you have any questions on that one before I go to the next one?
One overarching question that Lauren touched on this morning and that has come up a couple of times in outside conversations about compacts has to do with the impact of the Dobbs decision.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to flag that as something we should cover with each one of these. But it sounded like from the testimony we heard this morning, the rules haven't been made yet and we're going to be part of the compact, then we have the opportunity to address that. It's only in compacts that have already done their rules where we have challenges.
Which is especially with this one. So very good point, especially with the counseling compact. It is really important, our committee believes, to be on this sooner rather than later so that we can help with that rulemaking.
Because the rulemaking gives us a seat at the table.
Gives us a seat at the table. So we would always have a seat at the table as being part of the compact, but we have a seat at the table in making the rules with this one if we get in there soon. And I know Lauren will touch on that a little bit more probably on this one. So H77 is a physical therapy license compact. This one is fully active and every state around us, except for Maine, is part of, well, I take that back. New Hampshire is currently part of the compact. Maine is not. New York and all the other states around us have pending legislation. I'm reading my colors right. This is active, 33 states. So all the rules have been made. If we join, physical therapists will be able to choose pretty quickly if they want to work in a, provide care in another state. And some may be thinking, well, geez, how can we do physical therapy by telehealth, right? But it's not all hands-on physical therapy that occurs. So we heard from physical therapists that this would be very important for them. Okay.
And, has your committee had the conversation about how these are very lengthy legislation, but that we're not really able to change any of the words in them in order to join the compact?
Yes, that's always an interesting one. So I think the counseling compact was 43 pages. The PT one might be 38 pages. So, and we can't change the language, right? So every state that joins the compact agrees to the language that was created by the creators of the compact. We can add amendments to change our state laws to ensure that we can comply with the language that's in the compact, but we cannot change the language of the compact. Which is always a little frustrating.
We'd like to put our mark on the legislation.
We do.
Yes. Can always be better.
So then the last one is, I think it's H86. And so this is an audiology and speech language pathology compact. Again, this is not yet active, but the rules have been made. 23 states have joined, including New Hampshire. So again, this is when we would have a seat at the table as part of the commission, but the rules have already been made. There are a little bit more of a concern on this one that when OPR left our committee, they were going to do some more research. It has to do with the fact that the compact requires a practicing audiologist to be doctorate level, yet we don't have that requirement in our state. And so OPR was looking at that a little bit further, which I'm sure she can touch on, about how how would we be able to do that when our requirements don't require a doctorate level degree? Again, generally these will provide mobility, hopefully more access for Vermonters. And the other thing we heard from several, across all of them, several providers, is that it allows access for care by providers who more meet what they need. So I'm just going to say like LGBTQ plus person we may not have a lot of providers in our state. And so they could now go to another state to get counseling. Or a BIPOC could go to another state. So it opens up the access to the types of providers that might help you more than someone else.
Questions for Representative Houghton about any of these compacts? Representative Chase?
For the counseling one, if we've got a seat for drafting the rules, presumably we've got to join the compact. But if the rules haven't been decided yet, and it turns out that other states outvote us and put in rules that are incompatible with Vermont law, Constitution, whatever, do we have an out, or do we need to do another piece of legislation to withdraw from the compact? How would that work?
I think I'm going to let OPR answer that question.
Okay.
That might be a nice segue unless anybody has any questions for Representative Houghton. All right, great. Well,
I'm going to stay and listen if
yes,
that's okay.
you can, thank you very much for bringing these bills for a drive-by.
Taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Secretary, thanks for joining us again this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me well?
We can.
Awesome. For the record, my name is Lauren Hibbert. I'm the Deputy Secretary of State, and I'm here to testify about the 3 compacts before you. Broadly, the Office of Professional Regulation and the Secretary of State support adoption of all 3 compacts. We do see compacts, as I testified this morning, as the future of occupational licensure because it solves so many problems with interstate mobility, with telehealth, and it does seem to be of vital interest to the professions that we regulate. I just wanted to answer the last question of how would we leave if we wanted to, and that would be through legislative action, repealing the statutes that these bills would put in place. The majority of the compacts, and I believe all 3 of these, say that we have to operate the compact for 6 months after the effective date of the repeal. That's so that states can unwind and licensees can unwind their expectation to have a license in our state. And that would be our process. Hopefully we don't have to do that, but that would be how we would accomplish that. As Representative Houghton testified, we are and have been, and I testified this morning, we are, have been, and continue to be very mindful of the post-Dobbs implications of all of the compacts where the rules have not yet been written. We know that we will have a voice at the table and can talk about that in the rules creation. So that in terms of the compacts before you today, that's really the counseling compact, H62. We know that we would have a voice in the rules discussion. The H86, the rules are further along, but not that much further along. So I think that we would have a voice in those rules as well. I'm just checking my notes for 1 second. Yeah, they're in the process, the initial rule drafting, but they haven't adopted them yet. So if we were part of the commission, if we were a member state and part of the compact commission, we may have some influence on those rules. And I suspect that they are also contemplating some of the post-Dobbs implications. The PT compact, the rules are already in effect, but we have less concern with the impact on that profession, given the nature of their work. So with that being said, very broadly on all 3 of these compacts, and I don't know how much you want to hear again from this morning, or if there's any other questions, but very broadly, we support adoption of all 3 of these compacts. They have broad support from the professional communities that they would impact, and I think could streamline licensing for us and also for healthcare facilities in our state.
Representative Hanga.
Thank you. I have a question that's specifically regarding the rulemaking that states that audiologists need to be at a doctorate level. How does that affect folks who are already practicing in the state of Vermont if we join this compact?
Yes. So what I have learned is that people who currently are licensed and have a master's degree would be eligible for the compact through the concept of grandfathering, or as I like to call it, grandmothering, and that we would probably need to do an amendment, and we have drafted an amendment that has been sent to Legislative Council for adding the doctorate path as an eligible path for licensure in Vermont. We have never needed to add it specifically to the statute before because, you know, a master's degree is stacked underneath a doctorate degree. So if you have the master's, then, if you have the doctorate, then you have the master's. But we're going to request for it to be officially added to the statute to comply with the compact. And a draft of that amendment, I think, is with the Leg Council now and probably will be back in front of House Health in the near future.
Lauren, I think one of the things that Representative Hanga might be getting at is that a master's level audiologist, would they still be able to get a state of Vermont only license if we join the compact?
They would be able to still get a single state Vermont only license. And it is my understanding that they would also be grandmothered into the compact as well.
That was my question.
Yeah, so they, I just want to make that really clear because there was a no from the audience. It's that if a master's level audiologist who today can get a Vermont license, they would be able to renew a new master's level audiologist would be able to get a license even after we join the compact. They just wouldn't be able to get a compact license unless they had a doctorate if they weren't already already licensed.
Yes, I think that there's a process by which if you've had a master's degree, you can get a compact, but I'd have to get clarity on that from the compact folks. But absolutely, if you have a master's degree in audiology, you will be able to get the single state Vermont license. That is not shifting. We are not raising the education level by joining this compact.
Go ahead, Representative Hanga.
Thank you. But we would be, if we put an amendment to the current statute requiring a doctorate.
We would require a master's in audiology or a doctorate in audiology in order to be licensed. But we are not removing, yes, in Vermont, but we are not removing the master's path to the audiology license.
No, but I thought what you meant by the amendment was that you were going to, going forward, if that amendment is passed, require a doctorate, which would preclude a master's only new audiologist from practicing in Vermont.
I must not have been clear enough, and I apologize. What I meant was you'll either have to have a master's degree in audiology or a doctorate in audiology to obtain a license, one or the other, to get a single state license.
So master's levels will still be able to practice in Vermont going forward, even if you have an amendment, even if we have an amendment requiring a doctorate for them to get the multi-state compact license.
That is correct.
Thank you.
We do not want to disrupt the audiologists, in-state or future audiologists who only hold a master's degree. We want to make sure that that's still a viable path and a way to get a license here.
Representative Nugent.
Just out of curiosity, like if you have a PhD, usually you also have a master's degree. Is that?
That's correct in this
So
field.
you feel like you need to have that in the statute anyway? Because if you had a master's degree or if you had a PhD, you would automatically have a master's degree, so you wouldn't.
Correct, but there are, so you're saying, do we feel like we need to have the master's degree in?
Or like, would it be potentially redundant to have the PhD listed?
Our reading of the compact is that we need the express PhD path in the statute. So that's why we're adding it. It may be duplicative, but that's our reading of the compact language.
Representative Hickey.
You may have already answered this, but if we become a member of a compact, whatever it is, and there's a complaint against a certain profession, is there a compact board that would oversee the issue, or would it go to you here at the state?
If it is a complaint about somebody who's practicing in our state, it's heard by us in our state.
So only you folks, the compact wouldn't be involved?
That's correct. We would report it into the compact so that our sister states would be aware of the conduct, but the hearing would happen in our state with our board, with our investigators, our prosecutors.
Thank you.
I had a question about the counseling compact, which is it only covering folks who are licensed mental health counselors, not other allied mental health professions like a licensed social worker wouldn't be affected by or eligible for that compact, right?
That is correct. It's just the licensed mental health counselors. And just for context, there's about 8 different mental health providers in this state. The social work profession, there is a compact in percolation, the social work compact. That language is not ready to be implemented by any legislature, but I suspect it will be in the next 2 to 3 years. Lauren Lehman, who I testified with this morning, is actually on the compact, the social work compact think tank team, for lack of a better word. They're writing the compact. So she's working with that group. And then the marriage and family counselors, I'm not aware of a compact coming. There is a compact for psychologists. That's the PsyPact. I do think there's a bill that's been released on that. And then for the licensed alcohol and drug counselors and the related professions, I haven't seen a compact. So this compact only for the LMHCs.
Thank you. Representative Houghton, do you want to give our committee a sense of what your timeline is? We're just doing a drive-by, so we're not weighing in here. This was just a courtesy because of our OPR overlapping jurisdiction.
Yes, so in committee discussion, we are actually ready to move forward on all 3 of these bills. We're just waiting for an amendment that I was just looking at my emails that have been approved and Lauren might want to touch on this for the requirements around the background checks on all 3 of them. And so we are putting it on our agenda to vote out tomorrow morning.
These are fast moves.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So if I may just say on the FBI background checks, we asked for an amendment to Title III. There's a section that authorizes us to do criminal background checks on professions. And with all of these compacts, we need these professions to be added. So it's 3 separate amendments allowing us to fingerprint background check these professions. And the other piece was we asked that the implementation date be that we can start background checking folks July 1st of this year, but that we do not implement it until July of 2024, so that we have time to change all of our forms and update our staff and engage in some of the compact process. That will not preclude us from being part of the compact commission for any rulemaking.
Makes sense. Any other questions for Deputy Secretary Hibbert? Right. See, this is why we had our big overarching conversation on compacts this morning. We've used our time very efficiently. Lauren, thank you for being here twice in one day. I'm sure we will have you back as the OPR bill progresses. And Representative Houghton, thank you for bringing these bills before us for a drive-by. So great. Well, we have a little bit of time before floor to go get ready. So we'll adjourn for today, and I will see you all upstairs at 3.